The quest begins with the traveler on a mission to create their own ancient name following Mavuika's order. The ancient name is crucial. It ensures that the traveler can be revived if things take a turn for the worse during the final war against the Abyss. To accomplish this, the traveler meets Silenen, a master blacksmith from the Children of Echoes. But there's a challenge. Despite her incredible skills, Silenen has never created an ancient name for anyone outside of Natlan, even the traveler comes from outside of Teifat. The traveler has had countless heroic adventures, but all of them happen outside Natlan and aren't recorded in the Night Kingdom. To create an ancient name, every heroic journey must be recognized by the Way Up. So, even as a master blacksmith, Silenen feels that creating an ancient name for the traveler is an impossible task. Since it's a request from Mavuika, and Silenen believes the traveler is an important factor in Mavuika's plan, she has no choice but to figure out how to create an ancient name for the traveler. The traveler needs to be recognized by the Way Up so that their journey in Natlan can be recorded in the Night Kingdom. The problem is that each tribe's Way Up is different, and we don't know which one will or is willing to recognize the traveler. Since the creation of the ancient name is closely tied to the Way Up, we need the help of someone who is highly knowledgeable about the Way Up, which is Citlali, often called Granately, from the Master of the Night Wine tribe. The issue is Citlali is eccentric. She locks herself in her room, heads being disturbed, and once she starts talking, she doesn't stop. She is so unique that even her own tribe struggles to work with her. Besides that, during a previous Archon quest to save Kachina, we accidentally damaged one of her most prized possessions, which is the Spirit Speaker's Stone. That's why we are hesitant to approach her now. But since the ancient name must be created no matter what, we decided to meet with Kinich and discuss how to get Citlali's help. Kinich has a plan. Right now, Citlali is dealing with a problem involving one of her tribe members, Oraron. He was confirmed to have helped Capitano during the previous Archon quest. Archon is an orphan raised by the chief and the people of the Master of the Night Wine tribe, but he has a strange habit of living alone, far from the others. Citlali and Archon have a close bond, and she believes Archon was forced into helping the Fatui. She wants to prove his innocence that he isn't a traitor. So, Kinich suggests a win-win solution. We offer to help Citlali find Archon and Capitano in exchange for her assistance in creating the traveler's ancient name. With that plan in mind, Kinich sends a letter to Citlali, and now we wait for her at the stadium at the Sacred Flame. 2 days pass, and still no sign of Citlali at the stadium. Payment's patience runs thin. She gets frustrated, muttering all kinds of insults, calling Citlali an old hack, arrogant, full of herself, and more. But then, out of nowhere, Citlali arrives. And here's the kicker. She doesn't look like an old woman at all. In fact, she appears young. Citlali explains that she received Kinich's letter and agreed to help right away. That's why she didn't bother sending a reply. She came directly to the stadium. But as she tries to explain why she was late, her reasoning only makes things, well, awkward. To cut the tension, we quickly shift the focus back to the main objective. Citlali agrees to help create the traveler's ancient name, but only after we find Archon. She then mentions that she'll take us to meet the Lord of the Night, the ruler of the Night Kingdom. The Lord of the Night has more authority than the other Way Up and is the one who can create an ancient name for someone from outside Natlan. So, thankfully, we won't need to deal with all the Way Up to get the traveler recognized. But there's a catch. The Lord of the Night is asleep and requires a special ritual to wake her up. So, we quickly split up tasks. Silenen will gather the necessary items for the ritual, while the traveler and Citlali set out to find Archon. The clock is ticking, and everything's in motion. The traveler and Sidley arrive at the last place Auron was seen, where he had been interacting with the Fatui. Sidley then shares a bit of Auron's past. When Auron was a baby, he was left alone by the side of the road and found by the people of the Master of the Night One tribe. He was raised by everyone in the tribe. Once he could live on his own, Auron built a house on the outskirts separated from the tribe and farmed for a living. Sidley says that Auron is a good kid and is still hopeful that the Fatui are holding him hostage. To find out the truth, they investigate the area. Sidley casts a spell that allows her to share sense with the traveler to track Auron's phlogiston trail. However, a side effect of the spell is that the traveler can hear Sidley's thoughts. In her mind, it turns out Sidley often grumbles because younger people consider her language old-fashioned. She also overthinks Auron's situations. The investigation continues and they split up. At one point, the traveler suddenly hears a voice in his head and paces out. He wakes up in the Night Kingdom, realizing it was Auron's doing. Auron had left clues to separate the traveler from Sidley and forcefully brought the traveler's consciousness into the Night Kingdom. Knowing his physical strength cannot match the traveler's, Auron explains that he doesn't want to hurt him, he just wants to talk. At that moment, Capitano appears. Capitano says he wants to discuss with the traveler how to save Natlan. He doesn't believe in Mavuika's plan and has one of his own. The traveler is invited to the eastern part of the stadium to meet the Capitano directly. Afterward, the traveler regains consciousness and decides to keep the meeting a secret to avoid causing trouble. The traveler and Sidley continue searching for Auron and eventually find him at the Fatui camp. Believing Auron is being held captive by the Fatui, Sidley immediately tries to rescue him. They defeat the Fatui and talk to Auron. Auron behaves differently from the Auron they met in the Night Kingdom, acting clueless to avoid suspicion and carry out his plan freely. He explains that he agreed to help Capitano to keep Capitano away from Sidley, whom he sees as his beloved granny. They report what they know about Auron so he won't be imprisoned, and Sidley scolds Auron at length for what he's done. That night, the traveler goes to the agreed-upon location where Auron and Capitano are already waiting. Capitano is aware of the traveler's abilities, having learned about them from other harbingers. He explains that rather than being at odds, it would be better for them to work together as he also wants to save Natlan. However, Capitano doesn't believe in Mavuika's plan, considering it too naive and unrealistic. Mavuika hopes to gather 6 heroes like 500 years ago to join her as the main force against the Abyss. But Capitano doubts that the remaining 2 heroes will appear at the right time and question if their strength would even be enough to face the Abyss. Capitano also suspects that Mavuika has a backup plan she hasn't revealed to the traveler. The traveler remains wary of Capitano, suspicious of his intentions due to his association with the Fatui, and suspects that Capitano's true goal might be Knossos. Capitano clarifies that having lost to Mavuika in their previous battle, he has no right to claim that Knossos and isn't after it on behalf of the Tsaritsa. Though he's no longer pursuing the Knossos, Capitano still wants to save Natlan and has devised a new plan he believes to be more realistic than Mavuika's. Before Capitano can explain his plan, Sidley suddenly arrives and strikes Auron, forcing Capitano to leave. Furious, Sidley feels betrayed by Auron, realizing that all her hopeful thoughts were in vain because Auron knowingly allied himself with the Fatui. She continues scolding him while Auron can only apologize, unable to explain himself. Finally, with a clever trick, Auron manages to escape from Sidley, stating that he's trying to save Natlan. Fed up with Auron's behavior, Sidley decides to take a break and have some drinks to clear her mind. In a vulnerable moment, she began ranting about her life, how people often see her as a monster, call her lazy, and how exhausted she feels with everything. After snapping out of it, she shared more about Auron's past. Auron was abandoned by his parents because his soul was fragmented or incomplete, which made it unstable. The people of the Master of the Night Wine tribe believed Auron's condition could bring bad luck. However, the tribe's leader thought Auron's fractured soul might be the key to saving Natlan. The plan was to use Auron as a vessel for lost souls and send them to the Night Kingdom for their final resting place. If the ceremony succeeded, it would strengthen the ley line and save the Night Kingdom, but Auron would be sacrificed alive in the process. Upon hearing of this plan, Citlalli disagreed but didn't intervene. Fortunately, the ceremony failed and Auron survived. Nevertheless, Citlalli felt guilty for not doing anything to save him. On the other hand, Archon believed the ceremony should have succeeded and that he should have been sacrificed to save Natlan. Ever since, Archon has carried his guilt, which Citlalli believes is connected to his decision to work with Capitano. After a long day, the traveler went to rest. The next morning, news broke out about an abyss attack on the territory of the Master of the Night Wine. Citlalli excused herself to protect her tribe. The traveler met Mualani, Chaska, Chuichu, and Janssen, who informed them that all the tribes were under attack by the abyss. The traveler then went to Mawika to discuss their meeting with Capitano and to ask her about the secrets she was hiding. Mawika confirmed that she did have a backup plan, which involved using the Pyronosis. The Pyronosis could gather all the souls and memories in the Night Kingdom and transform them into a protective shield to guard Natlan's ley line from the abyss. However, this plan would also sacrifice Natlan's legends, memories, and history, essentially erasing the culture they had long preserved. Even if the shield was created, it wouldn't be immune to the abyss' corrosive effects. If Mawika couldn't repair the ley line before the shield broke down, all the sacrifice would be in vain, making this backup plan extremely risky and costly. Natlan's history and memories would be lost forever. Mawika still believed in her primary plan, which was to gather the 6 heroes just as was done 500 years ago. The next step was to find Capitano and ask him directly about his plan. But first, Mawika and the traveler had to defeat the abyss monsters attacking different areas. The travelers helped fight the abyss monsters and explained the situation to Silenen and the others while waiting for an informant who was spying on Capitano. It turned out that Chaska and Chuichu were the ones tailing the Fatui. During their mission, they observed some Fatui agents helping the people of Natlan, surprisingly without asking for anything in return. Working as a team, the siblings successfully infiltrated the Fatui hideout, where they discovered that the Fatui were collecting something called the source mechanism. Interestingly, Mawika didn't know the mechanism's function but speculated it might be similar to Gnosis. Silenen was tasked with gathering scholars to research the source mechanism. Meanwhile, Chaska was planning to take Chuichu home, as Chuichu had been working hard as a doctor and was slightly injured. Although not related by blood, the siblings showed true sibling behavior, arguing but still caring deeply for each other. Then, Citlalli met the traveler to discuss Auron. It turned out that Auron had returned to the Master of the Night Wine's territory and helped fight the abyss monsters. However, he was still following Capitano, insisting it was to save all of Natlan. Citlalli then pulled out an amulet meant to stabilize Auron's soul. She had added another spell to it, so the amulet now contained Auron's memories, allowing us to look into them and uncover the truth. We entered Auron's memories and saw a glimpse of his daily life. One day, Capitano approached Auron and asked him about Citlalli. Because Auron saw Citlalli as family, he refused to give any information about her. Instead, he decided to follow Capitano to uncover his true motives. While tracking Capitano, Auron noticed that Capitano had the ability to heal his subordinates afflicted by spirits, a skill known only the Master of the Night Wine tribe. This deepened Auron's curiosity about Capitano's intentions. Then, we saw the moment when Capitano attacked Mawika. During the battle, Oran witnessed Capitano nearing defeat and on the brink of death. If Capitano died, Oran would lose his chance to learn more about Capitano's plan, so he chose to save Capitano. The scene shifted to the end of the previous Archon quest, where Oran admitted he knew Natlan's ley line was in danger, yet he didn't fully trust Mavuika's plan. He wanted to save Natlan himself and believed Capitano might have a better solution than Mavuika. Capitano then explained that he needed Citlali to communicate with the Way Up in the Night Kingdom. Wanting to protect Citlali and having already saved Capitano, Oran decided to follow Capitano's plan. Capitano revealed that his plan was just as risky as using the Gnosis. He intended to rebuild Natlan's ley line. After learning the truth, Citlali became furious again and we prepared to report Capitano's plan to Mavuika. We met Mavuika and explained what we saw. Creating a new ley line would also erase Natlan's entire history and memories, making it just as risky as using the Gnosis. That's why Mavuika needed to stop Capitano immediately. Since everyone was busy defending their territories from the Abyss, only the Traveler, Kinich, Silenin, and Mavuika set out to stop Capitano and destroy the source mechanism. Long story short, we made it to where the source mechanism was, and Capitano and Oran were already there. They were also in the ruins of an ancient dragon civilization. Oran activated the source mechanism and suddenly became extremely aggressive. Oran tried to attack Silenin, but unexpectedly Capitano saved Silenin. Capitano suspected that someone or something had possessed Oran. This person addressed Capitano as commander and said Capitano always worried about others letting opportunities slip away. While Capitano restrained Oran, the Traveler managed to stop the source mechanism. It turned out that Oran was indeed possessed by one of Capitano's subordinates, Goddard. When the source mechanism was activated, it shook Oran's soul, putting him at high risk of death. When Oran was at his weakest, Goddard took over his body to carry out Capitano's plan. During this critical moment, Oran remembered everyone who had been important in his life. He regained his will to live and didn't want to die just yet. Oran survived the critical moment and gained the ancient name of Bidi, which means devotion. Oran's determination to save Natlan was recognized by a past hero named Sonach, making Oran the fifth hero needed to save Natlan. The activation of the source mechanism had also awakened the Lord of the Night, the ruler of the Night Kingdom. It was explained that the Lord of the Night was the entity who created Natlan's ley line and built the Night Kingdom. The Lord of the Night's origin was revealed to be from the Seelie race, once known as angels. The Lord of the Night was satisfied with how hard humans had worked to save Natlan. He was willing to sacrifice himself to rebuild the ley line. However, Mavuika didn't agree with this plan. As I explained earlier, creating a new ley line would also erase all of Natlan's history and memories, which would even cause mental disorders and cognitive problems for Natlan's people. That's why Mavuika didn't want to go through that plan. Capitano then said that this was the price to be paid to save Natlan. If they didn't take decision action now, there wouldn't be any time left. The Traveler asked why Capitano was so pessimistic about Mavuika's plan. Capitano then shared his reasons, which were tied to his past. It was revealed that Capitano was from Khaenri'ah and had survived the Khaenri'ah cataclysm 500 years ago. Capitano had witnessed the Abyss destroy his family, comrades, and country. That's why he would now do anything, at any cost, to save Natlan from the Abyss. But Mavuika explained a different perspective. Mavuika loves Natlan not just because of its land but also its people. Creating a new ley line would mean replacing people's memories. Mavuika wants to save both the land and everything about Natlan. After discussing it, Capitano decided to follow Mavuika's plan, especially since they only needed one more hero, making Mavuika's plan even more realizable. Capitano agreed to deploy all Vatui under his command to help Mavika and save Natlan. Before the travelers left, they asked Lord of the Night a few questions. The first question was about Celestia, or heavenly principles. Lord of the Night explained that the heavenly principles don't like their name being mentioned carelessly by humans or even by the Archon. They prefer to move in the shadows. It was also explained that Lord of the Night created the Night Kingdom with the help and guidance of the one who controls the power of death, or Vernova. So Vernova played a significant role in Natlan. However, the help from Vernova wasn't favored by the heavenly principles, and Vernova was seen as crossing the line as a shadow. As a result, Vernova fell into self-lamentation to atone for her mistakes. Next, the travelers asked about the Loom of Fate. Lord of the Night answered that he didn't know about the Loom of Fate. He could recreate ley lines, which means reshaping old ley lines into new forms, but the Loom of Fate could create new ley lines from nothing. Lord of the Night said that if that tool was used in Natlan, it might save the land from the abyss. Then the travelers asked about elemental power and abyss power. Lord of the Night explained that the heavenly principles created elemental power to defeat abyss power. Light can refract into 7 different colors, implying that if the 7 elements in Tefat were combined, they could become light to fight the abyss. The travelers also asked about the ancient name. Lord of the Night replied that he would contact Salinan and Citlali in their dreams to ask them to create the ancient name for the travelers. After answering all the questions, the traveler returned to the stadium, where Mavuika and Capitano had already agreed to work together. Capitano then told the story of his past in Natlan. During the catalysm in Henria 500 years ago, Capitano failed to defend Henria from the abyss. He and the remaining members of his army fled to Natlan. The situation in Natlan wasn't much better, but at least it could still be saved. At that time, Capitano helped defend Natlan and became close to the chief of the Master of the Night Wine tribe, Aizu. As a Henrian, Capitano was often blamed for the disaster, but Aizu accepted him into the tribe and helped him during critical moments. From that time, 500 years ago, Capitano fought to save Natlan. Even though his homeland Henria had been destroyed, Natlan should not suffer the same fate. Then Mavuika felt confused because Capitano fought to defend Natlan 500 years ago, and at that time, Mavuika was already the Archon. Yet she didn't recognize Capitano's face, perhaps because of the mask he wore. But Capitano explained that even without the mask, Mavuika wouldn't recognize his face because his body has decayed. For pure-blooded Henrian, they were cursed with immortality by the heavenly principles. Even though they are immortal, their bodies still decay. Since Capitano was from Henria, the traveler asked if he knew Dane's slave. Capitano said he only knew his name and had met him once when Dane's slave was traveling with the Henria princess, Lumin. In my case, since my MC is Either. Capitano also said that he didn't want to fight Either because he remembered that Either was the twin of the Henria princess, Lumin. Capitano's rank in Henria was far below Lumin's, so he didn't want to hurt Either. Capitano also said that he didn't know how Dane's slave slowed the decay of his body. Capitano's body was entirely ruined, and not only that, his strength was only a fraction of what it used to be. That's why he lost to Mavuika, and because of that loss, Capitano felt he didn't deserve the Gnosis. The traveler then asked what Capitano would tell Tharitha if he failed to obtain the Gnosis. Capitano replied that Tharitha allowed the Harbingers to act according to their individual goals. That's why each Harbinger had different actions but served the same master. Capitano explained that he pursued the Gnosis to save Natlan. His primary goal was to save Natlan first, and if he still had a Gnosis after that, he would take it to Snezna. At this point, Mavuika stated that she would not use the Gnosis. She remained steadfast in her plan to gather the 6 heroes. With the 6 heroes, Mavuika could borrow the power of Renova, the god of death, whose power was unmatched by anything in Teyvat and could easily fight the Abyss. In fact, the power of Renova that Mavuika would borrow was stronger than any Archon's power. But of course, such immense power came with a high and risky price, which Mavuika would have to pay with her life. Then, one night, Sidley and Silenen went to meet Lord of the Night. It turned out that creating the ancient name would shorten the creator's lifespan, which in this case was Silenen. Silenen believed that the traveler had greatly contributed to Natlan and their power would significantly help fight the Abyss. So whatever the price, Silenen was ready. Sidley, however, shared her worries. At one point, she had glimpsed Mavuika's future and saw that Mavuika would die. Lord of the Night explained that Renova would help Mavuika fight the Abyss, but her life had to be given in exchange. But Renova didn't care when or how Mavuika would die, so while it was uncertain when and how, Mavuika's death was inevitable. Mavuika already knew this risk and had accepted her fate. Lord of the Night then gave an item that would record all the traveler's journey in Natlan forever, which Silenen could use to make the ancient name for them. The next day, the item was given to the traveler, but peace didn't last long as Abyss monsters launched a simultaneous attack on all regions. The traveler and other characters went to several locations to save citizens from the Abyss. In this part of the quest, we rushed from place to place defeating the Abyss, and I personally felt exhausted and frustrated because the Abyss monsters kept coming without end. In my opinion, that's one of the special things about this Archon quest, as we players can also feel the exhaustion and frustration of fighting the Abyss, emotions that the people of Natlan have long experienced. This part of the quest also shows the cruelty of the Abyss monsters. They attack men, women, the elderly, and even children indiscriminately. When things were already tough, it got worse with the appearance of a portal, or entity, or creator that could open countless Abyss portals, summoning an endless number of Abyss monsters. Honestly, at this point, I got really caught up in the atmosphere and was utterly disgusted by the Abyss monster. They just kept attacking like crazy. But these scenes gave me chills because everyone, including the Fatsui, banded together to fight the Abyss.
Thank you.
状況はひどくなる一方だ。まずはここを守り、民の安全を確保しろ。
虚無と混沌、これがアビスか。
今が最大の好機だと奴も理解しているようだ。
成果はどうする？
マービカがもう向かってる。
Then we saw Mavuika use the power of Pyronosis to protect the sacred flame from the Abyss entity's attack. The Abyss entity summoned more and more Abyss monsters, forcing the Traveler and other characters to fight even harder. But the Abyss monsters were too many and many lives were lost. In this part of the quest, we, as players, were shown firsthand how the power of the Abyss killed many people in Natlan. To me, this part was very emotional because it detailed the struggles of the people of Natlan and their sorrow as they watched their family and tribe members fall victim to the Abyss attack. The situation worsened with the appearance of something called the Abyssal Tumor, which couldn't be destroyed by elemental power, leaving us in an even more desperate situation. With no safe places left in Natlan, everyone was instructed to head to the stadium as the sacred flame there was feared by the Abyss. At the climax, when the traveler were heading to the stadium, they saw Cheska and Chuchu surrounded by the Abyss monsters. The traveler helped defeat the Abyss monsters, but their arrival couldn't change the situation. Chuchu had already been affected by the Abyss corrosion, and though the traveler tried to save her, it was too late. Chuchu had been contaminated and her body couldn't hold on. Cheska was devastated that she couldn't protect Chuchu, but Chuchu urged Cheska to keep going and save Natlan. Chuchu told her she was proud of her before taking her last breath. Seeing her beloved die, Cheska almost lost control due to the Abyss power inside her. Cheska was sad and angry, but she eventually managed to control herself and hold back the Abyss power. Then after Chuchu's death, and because Cheska didn't give up despite all the burdens she had carried in her life, Cheska gained the ancient name and was acknowledged by a hero from 500 years ago named Menelik. Thus, the 6 heroes Mavuika had planned for were now complete. Although through a very heavy and sorrowful process, Cheska then took Chuchu to the stadium to be placed in a safe location. Now that the 6 awaited heroes were present, Mavuika gathered them all in the stadium to begin his plan. These 6 heroes were Mwalani from the people of the Springs, Silenin from the children of Echoes, Yansen from the Collective of Plenty, Araron from the Master of the Night Wine, Kinich from the Scion of the Canopy, and finally Cheska from the Flower Feather clan. With all the heroes assembled, Mavuika could summon and borrow the power of Renova to drive the Abyss out of Natlan.
祝福された孔明を手に
力の真の意味を知り
献身の定めをたどってやがて超越の炎を迎える
ナタのために
ナタのために
炎の魔人ハボリムの名において野両者の戦争の開幕を告げる。終戦まで反言の歌があらゆる命を守ることを誓おう。
At this point, Mavuika declared, in the name of the Pyro Archon Haborim, I declare the Night War is underway. According to an NPC named Ngahu, Haborim is Mavuika's demon name. Another demon name for an Archon has been spilled by Genshin. Renova's power wasn't just for fighting the Abyss, but also for protecting Natlan's citizen by activating the Art of Resurrection. Usually, the Art of Resurrection can only be done for those with ancient name, but now it was activated for everyone in Natlan, so no one would die anymore in the fight against the Abyss monsters. Not only that, Mavuika's new power could also destroy the Abyssal Tumor, which previously couldn't be destroyed by elemental powers. Because of this, Natlan began to turn the tide. All the heroes returned to their respective regions to wipe out the Abyss monsters. The last place that needed protection was the Stadium of the Sacred Flame. After all the heroes and the people of Natlan successfully fought off the Abyss, Mavuika launched his final attack to defeat the Abyss entity in the sky. Mavika's power succeeded in defeating the Abyss entity, and surprisingly, after its departure, the sky of Teyfiat revealed a great pattern hole along with fragments of what looked like stones or planet against a backdrop of a sky that was actually black and red. After that, the people of Natlan truly managed to drive out the Abyss and claim victory. Next, we celebrate the victory of the long struggle. For now, Natlan is safe from the Abyss attack. However, Mavika explained that the war wasn't over. We had only managed to push the Abyss back to the Night Kingdom, but the Abyss in Natlan wasn't completely defeated yet. Because of this, Mavika planned a final attack to completely destroy the Abyss at its roots. But since this final mission was extremely dangerous, Mavika would go to the Night Kingdom alone. The next day, the traveler met with Sidlali, who spoke of a death that would come to Mavika. Sidlali asked the traveler to do anything they could to save Mavika. Then, before the traveler met Mavika, we were shown Mavika's past before becoming Archon. It started with young Mavika, who was already talented. There was also Mavika's wrestling friend, along with a few other NPCs who seemed to have close relationships with Mavika. Lastly, there was dialogue between Renova and Shibalanke, the first fire Archon, revealing that Renova was a woman. The dialogue's content was Shibalanke asking Renova for powers so he could save Natlan. But as a shadow, Renova couldn't just give her power to humans freely. So, Renova instructed Shibalanke to keep their conversation a secret. Renova crafted a scenario where Shibalanke would steal her power. The scenario meant to prevent Renova from being punished by the Heavenly Principle. After that, they agreed, and that's the history of Shibalanke borrowed Renova's power at the cost of his life. After that, the traveler met Mavika. Mavika explained her final plan to eradicate the Abyss in the Night Kingdom and restore the Natlan ley lines. This was so Natlan could be completely free from the Abyss and prevent future Abyss attacks. Mavika also said that the Sacred Flame was protecting her from the Abyss influence, which is why she dared to go to the Night Kingdom. Now, since the traveler had immunity to Abyss power, Mavika humbly asked them to assist her in the assault on the Abyss and end the Abyss terror in Natlan once and for all. The creation of the ancient name was also intended to guarantee the traveler's safety in the final battle against the Abyss. The traveler agreed to help Mavika, but unfortunately, Payment couldn't join because there was concern that she might become a primary target. After confirming the plan, the traveler asked Mavika a few important questions. I will only mention the crucial ones. The traveler asked about the false sky and the fragments in the sky. Mavika responded that the phenomenon of the broken sky had never happened in any other country. Mavika needed further investigation into the truth of the fragments in the sky and why the truth of the sky had to be hidden by the Heavenly Principle. Next, the traveler asked about Capitano. Mavika replied that she knew Capitano's goal wasn't just to save Natlan. Payment was also suspicious of Capitano's true intentions. But before everything became clear, Mavika wanted to focus solely on his final attack against the Abyss. After that, there weren't any other crucial questions and the traveler left the speaker's chamber. Before the quest ended, we were shown an additional scene where Capitano approached the Lord of the Night. Capitano knew that borrowing Renova's power would cost Mavika's life. Then the Lord of the Night said that it was Renova who sent Capitano on this long journey. Finally, Capitano mentioned that Natlan still had one more battle to face, and personally there was one last enemy Capitano needed to fight. Capitana then asked the Lord of the Night for help. It is still unclear what kind of help Capitana was asking for, but my speculation is either he was asking for power as well, or he was asking for Mavuika's safety. But regardless, that scene marked the end of Archon Quest Chapter 5, Act 3 and 4. So that's the summary of the Natlan Archon Quest. What do you guys think about this Natlan new Archon Quest? Let me know in the comments. See you in the next content. Ciao!